Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I would like to introduce a new subject to you all, that is environmental studies. It is a field that helps us understand the relationship between humans and environment. In a world where issues like pollution, climate change, and loss of biodiversity are becoming extremely serious, environmental studies plays a really important role in creating awareness and responsibility among us. Here we'll be studying different types of natural resources, biodiversity, ecosystem, how things are interrelated with each other. It is not just a subject but a responsibility that encourages us as informed citizens to care about our planet and work towards a sustainable future. Now let's start with the first topic. Module 1, as this is our part 1 of our lecture, we'll be first starting with module 1, that is environment and biodiversity. Let us understand the multidisciplinary nature of environment. Environment refers to the surrounding in which organisms live. They can be biotic and abiotic, non-living and living components. Why is it called multidisciplinary? Because it involves knowledge from different fields. Knowledge from different fields. Biology includes study of ecosystems, biodiversity, chemistry, pollution, chemical cycles, and physics contains energy flow. The 10% law, we'll be discussing all of them. Climate, economic studies, resource utilization. We have done economics, so you may be having an idea about how economics in economics, we see the allocation, distribution, and consumption of resources. Sociology, human interaction with the environment. You should be learning these. It is not something to be learned, it's your basic understanding also of the subjects like biology, study of body, ecosystem, interaction with the surrounding. Chemistry, you can understand it as pollution, the air pollutants, chemical cycles that are happening around us, water cycle, nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle. In physics, we know we talk about energy, power, climate, economics in terms of money, how is resource allocated, and sociology is interaction between the human and the environment. In simple terms, it is a combination of nature and human activities. Very important line, nature plus human activities. And understanding it requires multiple disciplines. Importance, it helps us solve problems. It promotes sustainable development, encourages responsible behavior. We need to have a responsible behavior in order to have a sustainable planet. Let's go on to the next slide. An ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? It is a functional unit of nature where living organisms interact with each other and their physical environment. Physical environment means the surroundings. Biotic components include living components. Living. Producers, consumers, decomposers. Producers are plants, consumer producers who make, consumers who have and decomposers who digest. Let's understand like this. Your mom makes the food, you have the food, and your stomach digests the food. This is just an example to understand. Don't remember this part. Yes, so abiotic components includes the non-living components, that is air, water, soil, sunlight. Now let's talk about the ecosystem functioning. Very important topic. Energy, we'll first talk about energy flow. Energy enters the ecosystem through the sun and flows in one direction. That is, it is, what is one word for this? Unidirectional. Unidirectional. So from sun, it goes on to plants. Plants, it is eaten by herbivores. Herbivores have plants. And what do carnivores eat? Herbivores or plants. Then what do carnivores, decomposers eat? Carnivores. Energy is not recycled. Very important point, that energy is not recycled and only 10% energy is transferred at each level. Lindemann law. Very important, asked as a 1 or 2 marker in your exams. Explain this law with a diagram or with an example. So you have to show 100% to 10% to 1% to 0.1%, and similarly you can further make the diagram. Next, now we'll see ecological pyramids. They represent structure of an ecosystem. First is your pyramid of numbers, where we see the number of organisms. Can you see this part? What is this part showing? The primary producers. This part, the primary consumers. This part, your secondary consumers, and this is your third level consumers. I hope you will be able to see what is written here. I'll explain with the help of a laser. So, this what is written here, energy is lost as heat. We know only 10% goes on to the next level. As you can see here, we have 100%. Then here, 10%, 1%, 0.1%. I have explained this in the last slide. And we can see it's evidently clear that the available energy is decreasing towards the top. This we have already discussed. Now let's move on to biomass. Pyramid of biomass shows the total mass. Now, first in this part, we can see 809 gram per meter square in case of primary producers. You can see these weeds out here. 37 gram per meter square of primary consumers, your turtles, your fishes and all. Your secondary consumers 11 and 1.5. So similarly, available biomass is also decreasing towards the top. Available, it is decreasing towards the top. Now, a pyramid of energy shows the energy flow. It is always upright. Now you can see it's approximately 15 lakh primary producers, out of which 2 lakh a primary consumer. After that, 90,000 are secondary consumers. And you can see examples also that are there in the figure. So I'm not explaining about examples. A very important point to note, you can have a question in your exams. Pyramid of numbers. Oh, wait. So, wait, I'll write this down first. So this is the question. Pyramid of number and biomass can be inverted, but that of energy cannot. Why? So let's write the answer. First is 10% rule of energy transfer. That only 10% of energy is transferred to the next level and the rest is given out as heat. Second, energy loss as heat. This we have already talked about. Then third stand is for unidirectional flow. We have already discussed that energy flows in one direction only. Because energy is lost at each step, the producer always contains the highest amount. Now we know energy loss at each step, therefore base heavy structure will be there. Base heavy means you'll always have the highest amount of energy here, highest amount of energy always. So this will create a consistent upright pyramid always. Consistent upright pyramid. So now let's move on to the next topic. Biogeochemical cycles. These are natural cycles that recycle nutrients between living and non-living components. First, let's discuss about carbon cycle. In carbon cycle, you have from CO2 to plants to animals to respiration to CO2. Dead matter decomposes into CO2. Fossil fuels burn, they release CO2. In respiration also, in case of plants or animals, we breathe out CO2, take in oxygen. Dead matter decompose the dead matter and release CO2. Fossil fuel burning is also releasing CO2. Now, what is the importance of carbon cycle? It maintains the carbon balance, regulates the climate and supports life processes. So we can say carbon balance, climate and support life processes. Now, just look at this diagram. Can you see that your CO2 plants are releasing oxygen, but they are taking CO2? Similarly, this CO2 in fossil fuels and fossils also we see that CO2 is released when decomposers act on them, decay organism. Then root respiration, plant respiration, animal respiration, all are releasing CO2. These factory emissions, very important, they are also releasing CO2. Ultimately, CO2 is at the top. We've seen every cycle. Every part of a cycle is playing its role in releasing CO2. That's why carbon cycle is very important. If this balance is not regulated properly and this balance goes either increases, decreases. It till the time it's same increase or same decrease, it's okay. But if it is disturbed, it will be a problem for our planet. Next, let's understand water cycle and nitrogen cycle. Now try to understand why I have not attached any material with regard to these two diagrams, because carbon cycle was something new for us. In case of water cycle, we have done it from a school level, and also nitrogen cycle is really easy and we can easily understand it from the diagram present here. So we'll discuss it. I'll use a pointer. So as you can see, let's understand from precipitation. The rain comes down in the form of from clouds. These are the clouds. Clouds, rain, rain, rain. And you can see this water flows into river streams and oceans. And then when there's sunlight, you can see this water starts getting evaporated. When it gets evaporated, after some time, condensation acts. Transpiration is happening. As you may have seen, when there's a small puddle in the road that you pass by. In the morning, it may be there, but when you come in the evening, it may have dried out. Why? Because it got evaporated. So that was just an example. So this was all about water cycle. Water cycle was still is an easy part. Now let's go on to nitrogen cycle. Now in nitrogen cycle, like we has carbon cycle, we had CO2. Here we have nitrogen. This undergoes nitrogen fixation with the use of nitrogen fixing bacteria. Then nitrification occurs, conversion happens, decomposers do ammonification, nitrifying bacteria also acts. This whole process is clear, I think. Denitrification, again you get N2 in the atmosphere. Assimilation of absorption of nitrogen in plants. In this figure, all the steps have been explained in great detail, so do read them once. They have a high chance that you may get a question on biogeochemical cycles. On explaining them and making the diagram would be a really important thing, because diagram does all of your work in case of explanation. Next, we have biodiversity. Biodiversity means the variety of life on Earth. In this first type, we have genetic, then we have species, and then we have ecosystem diversity. Genetic means like variation in within species that is prevalent in humans also. Species means variety of species. Ecosystem means different ecosystems coexisting together also. What is the values of biodiversity? Consumptive value and productive value. Direct use, food, fuel, medicine. Commercial use, timber, pharmaceuticals, etc. This was a previous year question. Now, threats to biodiversity can be. I'll introduce this shortcut later also, but I remember it as either this or this. Now, D stands for deforestation, pollution, overexploitation, climate change, and invasive species. So basically, these are the threats. One, two, three, four, five. There may be more, but these are the major five that you need to remember. A potential two marker threats to biodiversity. Now let's go on to case study part. Case study we have DDT. Is our first case study. It is a biomagnification. DDT pesticide enter the water bodies, pass through food chain, plankton to fish to birds. Can you see this diagram? It is showing how DDT is increasing throughout the steps. It is going from 0.003 ppm to 5 ppm. Now concentration is, as we can see, it is increasing throughout the levels. Parts per million. It is basically a unit of measurement for diluted things. So this is basically the unit. Now birds develop thin eggshells, reducing its population. This shows how pollutants magnify in food chains. Very important. DDT case study is showing that how pollutants magnify in food chains. Then is your Amazon rainforest. Large-scale deforestation in agriculture or mining leads to loss of biodiversity and climate imbalance. These are known as the lungs of the earth. The lungs of the earth, but they are still under threat. Lungs of the earth. Next module is natural resources and energy. Now, first of all, we'll be talking about water resource. This is essential for life, agriculture, and industry. The problems can be water scarcity, pollution, water pollution, and unequal distribution of water. Very important. Then now let's discuss a case study based on this that it is on the sea. Now, mostly rivers are sometimes diverted for irrigation. That means if suppose there is a river that is flowing through a place A. Now suppose a group of people settled on different parts of this river and tried to divert its path towards the left and towards the right. What will happen is this will shrink or shrink. This will shrink and it could lead to the water stoppage also. Because if there will be no water flow speed, also this water will not be flowing here. Instead, it will try to go on into the easy paths. So this increases salinity and fish died. This caused environmental and health problems, poor resource management. This is a very nice example of poor resource management. Land resources. Land supports agriculture and ecosystem. The problems are soil erosion, desertification, and deforestation. The causes of land degradation include overgrazing, mining, improper agriculture. Solutions is afforestation, crop rotation, and soil conservation. This can be asked as a half mark, mark, half mark, and you can be either asked, it's what does it support? Half mark. In EVS, you can expect any type of question. Energy resources, they are renewable and non-renewable. solar, wind, hydro means water, biomass, coal, oil, natural gas, these all are non-renewable. So renewable resources are resources that can be renewed or replenished by nature in a short span of time. Non-renewable can may or may not be replenished by nature or may take very long geological time to be formed again. Often these are available continuously, but these are exhausted after use. They can be divided into continuous or flow, but they are recyclable or non-recyclable. This is to learn. This can be used. Next is energy and climate change. Burning fossil fuels releases CO2. This we have discussed. Economic growth means more energy use, more emissions. Now, this poster, you may be thinking, why have I put a poster of World Rivers Day? Because helping farmers provide drinking water, good fisheries, life for animal and fishes, these all contribute to a nice, clean, and beautiful river. Dams. Now the Narmada case study. Here the benefits were electricity and irrigation, but the problem was displacement of people, the loss of forests, and the environmental damage that happened. Sustainable practices, organic farming, renewable energy, and water conservation. Aim is to meet the present needs without harming for the future generations. Let's understand a final summary of what we have covered today. We've covered environment as an interaction of living, abiotic and biotic component. Ecosystem is the functional unit of nature. Biodiversity shows the variety of life. Energy flow is one directional or unidirectional and follows the 10% law. Cycles maintain balance. Human activities are a major threat, and solution is for sustainability. Now, let's see some questions for practice. What is an ecotone? Ecotone is a transition zone between two ecosystems, like a forest grassland boundary. Its importance is high biodiversity, the edge effect. It acts as a buffered zone and supports species from both the ecosystems. Very important term. Explain the law, 10% law, with an example. And whenever you write, only 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next. When you have mentioned 1000 to 100 to 10, this line is very important. Remaining energy is lost as heat. If this is not written, don't expect to get full marks. If you have written this, extra marks guaranteed. Now, food chain and food web, a difference table. A food chain is a linear flow of energy, while a food web consists of a complex network. A food chain is a single pathway where a food web can contain multiple pathways. A food chain, a simple chain like this, is always said to be less stable. But a food web contains interdependencies, so therefore it may be more stable. Now, another important term, what are invasive species? They are non-native, means they are not of that place and that are harming the ecosystem. Water hyena, Nile perch. This is a fish. They reduce the native Biodiversity. Explain physical water scarcity with example. Now I'm using a laser. Physical water scarcity occurs when natural water resources are insufficient. Example, Middle East countries, even high rainfall areas like Cherrapunji, face scarcity due to poor storage. An important example, what are drawbacks of large dams? Displacement of people, loss of forests, disturbs the ecosystem, and there's sedimentation issues like increasing of salinity in that area. Fishes can die in that area. The Narmada Dam. This is basically what happened. Why there was displacement of people? Dam was created, led to loss of forest, disturbed the ecosystem, sedimentation issue. Biomagnification, increase of concentration at higher trophic level. We have done this part. Highest concentration in birds to harmful effects. What is the role of sacred groves in biodiversity conservation? Sacred groves have protected forest areas due to religious beliefs. They are meant to preserve biodiversity, protect rare species, and maintain the ecological balance. Monoculture and its impact. Monoculture, you will study this in the this famine also. Monoculture means growing a single crop repeatedly. It reduces the biodiversity, high risk of disease. This famine caused potato crop failure, leading to starvation. So if I ask what happened here, you write monoculture, and what you have to explain is given in this question directly. Major causes of land degradation is deforestation, COVID, deforestation, overgrazing, mining, improper agriculture leads to loss of soil fertility, and therefore, if soil fertility is affected, your productivity will also. So you can say soil fertility. We can write this is directly proportional to your productivity. Important key points to note. First, these case studies are really important. Kyoto Protocol, they were signed in 1997. It aimed to reduce greenhouse gases, binding targets for developed countries, climate change control. Paris Agreement, it was signed in 2015, limit global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. Countries submit climate action plans. Global cooperation was needed in this. IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It provided scientific reports on climate change and helped government make policies. OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is for promoting economic growth and environmental policies. Just remember economic plus environmental cooperation. This part we have done. Help conserve biodiversity. This part also we have done. Cherrapunji case is for very high rainfall, still water scarcity, poor water management or poor storage. It was written there. Poor storage of water. Despite very high rainfall, water scarcity. Monoculture, we understand this. Fly ash. It is produced by Coal power plants, it causes pollution if unmanaged. Uses bricks, cements, and oil soil improvement. Now, global agreements. We have done Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, and IPCC. Reduce greenhouse gas, binding targets, limit warming less than 2 degrees Celsius, global cooperation, gives climate reports and policy support. Food chain is linear, pyramid always upright, and ecosystem is a mixture of biotic and abiotic components. The 10% cycle rule was very important. You can see it on multiple slides. In cycle, we did CP carbon cycle, CO2 plants, animal respiration CO2. Biodiversity, we saw three types. Genetics means variation in genes. Species means variation in species. Variation between ecosystems. Now, what are the threats? Depocky or copid, deforestation, pollution, overuse, climate change, invasive species. Land resources, we have overgrazing, mining, and agriculture. Solution is reforestation, crop rotation, and soil conservation. We have done this part. Water scarcity plus mismanagement in Cherrapunji can be seen high rain but still scarcity. In a nutshell, let's understand Dani. Dani is DDT, thin eggshells, leading to reduction in population. Aral Sea, where we seen that the water was made to change its path in between, leading to shrinkage of the lake. Amazon, we saw deforestation. Narmada, we saw dams, large dams were made, therefore, it disturbed the entire balance, displacement of people to a different place. Invasive species cause biodiversity loss. These are non native species that harm the ecosystem. And this remained due to monoculture failure. I told you ecotone, sacred groves, monoculture, and fly ash. So thank you all. This was all for today's video. In this class or this lecture, we did many topics in environmental studies. We saw different case studies. Not only did we understand the topic, but we also understood real life cases that were the effects or the causes of what our actions are. Therefore, it's a responsibility to work upon them and make world a better place to live. So thank you. I'll see you all in the next lecture, part 2. If you like this video, do like, share, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So thank you. Bye bye.